Hi class, my name is Nicole Williams and I graduated with my associate's degree in criminal justice and am working on my bachelor's degree in human services with a focus of addiction and substance abuse. I later want to work on my social work degree for my master's, but let's jump into it. So I chose to talk about the models of addiction. So one of the first models of addiction is the cognitive behavioral model, which is also short for CBT. So there's two forms of pathological internet use, which is specific or generalized. The specific involves an unhealthy use of the internet, whether that's extreme gambling or viewing pornography or gaming all the time. It's just too much use of the internet. So this also is called a stimuli specific behavioral disorder. And this becomes available to pathological internet users, especially when the internet is unavailable. So, negative outcomes definitely come from overuse of the internet. And, like, one prime example is just like in marriages when the husband or wife, it doesn't matter, is more involved in the internet or the gaming or the cyber sex, which I'll touch on later. This tends to put stress on marriages and, leads to other difficulties in their life, whether that be disagreeing on parenting, finances, you name it. So, the second form of pathological internet use is generalized. And generalized is basically when the person would rather have communications over the internet versus being face to face with a person. The CBT model is focused on working through the thoughts, which determine the feelings, and changing those thoughts will help better the feelings because a lot of people that indulge in the internet too much have um, issues with depression or anxiety or feeling left out. So turning to the internet, allows them for an escape. So another model is the neuropsychological model. And like three of the conditions they talk about in the book is that they would feel better or achieve more self-actualization if they're on the internet versus in real life. One would experience dysphoria or depression, like I just talked about, whenever access to the internet is broken or ceases to function. So, whenever the internet is down, Wi Fi goes down, there's, you know, a thunderstorm and the person can't get on the internet. This has a lot of distress on the person. The internet use can be shown as it's getting really bad is if the members of the family are trying to hide their internet use from families or friends. So, in the neuropsychological model, it talks about our goal as humans and wanting to feel pleasure. This is also known as like a stimulant toward the nervous system. Using the internet makes the person feel good, so they want to keep using the internet. So, after a specific amount of time, it's different for others, but they build up this tolerance. So the tolerance is that they need more and more of the internet. The time that they used to spend on the internet is no longer enough time. So the absence of the internet altogether is causing some of that depression or feeling low or it's absent. I mean, it's no longer there to create this escape. Individuals form these like passive coping skills, but really these lead to anger and outbursts because they don't really have coping mechanisms to live without the internet. So, with the lack of internet and then the tolerance that's built up and the negative coping skills, this is why the CBT model is really good for people who struggle with the internet. And I mean, it's good for a lot of different therapies, but with the internet, it's changing the thoughts and the processes, which will change the feelings, finding different hobbies outside of using the internet. Another social identity model of de-individualization effects, it's also SIP, which stands for Social Information Processing Theory. The communication online is a lot slower between message and message instead of face to face, where you know you're going to get the response right away. So, although the same amount of information may eventually be received, it does take a lot longer. But also, in my opinion, I feel as though having the relationships on the internet is a lack of intimacy that you might have when you're with a person. Another model is the social cognitive model of uses and gratification. And yes, people can meet new people online and friendships, but I also talked about the intimacy before. So, people who use the internet regularly can be themselves or create a persona of someone that they would rather be. But they can also create shared interests with people that they're gaming with, or have another person as support in the world outside of their real world. And they can communicate with basically anyone all over the world. So, the escape from self model is my favorite because I've had family members and myself who have dealt with addiction. And I know that for substance abuse, whenever I didn't want to feel my feelings or whatever the case may be, I would use. And the escape from self model, can be used the same way as far as the internet. So, anytime, say I'm having a fight with my husband, or, my kids aren't acting the way I want them to be, entering that virtual world, helps you escape, right? So, this takes away from the person being able to, you know, experience the real world. And it takes away from presently what the person is supposed to be working on, any future goals or things like laundry that they have to get done. I feel that there's a difference between the internet used appropriately to create oneself and get outside of themselves, but then again, at the end of the day, like, too much of something is always not that great. So, finding a balance is what's important for our clients going forward. Another one of the models is the cyber sex addiction model, and I relate this a lot to the escape model, because either way, like, they're going outside of themselves. And with the cyber sex is more of an intimate, like, messaging back and forth, and this can ruin marriages and, relationships with people in the real physical world. So, this can cause a lot of strain on personal relationships if the person is indulging in talking with someone over the internet versus communicating with the person that may be right next to them. Although cyber sex can be exciting, it is also terrible for relationships within the home. Um, the secret phone calls may happen, and then the FaceTime, and they might even meet up off the internet. But like all things, excitement fades, and I think that's a lot of part of the cyber sex, is that it is exciting compared to being that in physical person with the marriage. That's why that kind of escape from self model, like not wanting to deal with finances, or listening to your wife about mowing the grass, or whatever the case may be. But the other last model of addiction I'm going to talk about is the multi-dimensional family model. This is a therapeutic model that lasts between 4 to 6 months, and with the family, the adolescent can be seen separately, the mom can be seen separately, and the dad can be seen separately. So that allows for everybody to have their kind of counseling therapeutic session, and then they can also be all together. We want all of our clients to get engaged in the change and want the change. So it, like I said, it's about 4 to 6 months, but it really depends on the progress of the family and if they're willing to participate. Through these sessions, we want to build communication skills, coping skills, and we want to see a progression as a therapist. So, in conclusion, I liked all these different types of models, and it really presents how internet use can be a stressful part of families' lives or in relationships. I definitely would view internet addiction as something that we could put in the DSM, especially since technology is progressing so much. But thank you for watching and have a good night.